Welcome to the Nordic Venture Show, your speed date with the hottest Nordic innovations and ventures. In this episode, our venture date is with Aiforia, AI for image analysis.
Okay, so today we're diving into Aiforia.
Oh, yeah. Aiforia.
And it's doing some really interesting things with AI.
Yeah, definitely in a really, really critical area.
Yeah.
Analyzing medical images for pathologists and scientists.
Right, exactly. And it's deep learning, AI, and cloud computing, all that good stuff.
It's amazing how much this technology has advanced.
Yeah.
Aiforia's goal is really ambitious.
Yeah.
They want to completely transform how we analyze these images.
Yeah, and I think what strikes me is it's not just about making things faster or whatever.
Right.
They're really focused on how this can actually improve patient care.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about the potential impact on diagnoses and treatment, it's huge.
Totally. So to get into this, they've got two main areas they're working on.
Okay.
First are their clinical solutions,
Right.
which are tools that can be used right now in pathology labs.
Makes sense.
And then they also have research solutions. Which are kind of pushing the boundaries in preclinical research. But the common thread is they're both using AI to make sense of these really complex medical images.
I see. So two sides of the same coin, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And for this deep dive, we've got a lot of material to work with.
Okay, cool.
We have information directly from Aiforia about their company and what they do.
Right.
And then we've got all these other insights and resources that kind of give us a broader view.
Nice. A good mix of primary and secondary sources.
Yeah. So basically, we want to understand how AI is being used in pathology image analysis.
That's the goal.
And specifically what Aiforia is doing and what it all means, what are the benefits, and, what are the implications of all of this.
Sounds like a plan.
So, yeah.
Let's get started.
Why don't we start with their clinical solutions?
Yeah, okay, so the clinical solutions are all about making the lives of pathologists easier
Okay.
and ultimately improving patient care.
How so?
Well, they offer AI-supported image-based diagnostics.
Okay.
So think intelligent visualization tools, things that help pathologists see things they might otherwise miss. Then there's automated screening. Imagine AI flagging potentially problematic areas in a scan.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Right, and then there are reporting tools to help streamline that whole process.
Okay, so it's taking care of a lot of the busy work
Exactly.
and all this within a cloud-based platform, so it's accessible from anywhere.
Exactly. So it's about efficiency and accuracy, ultimately.
Yeah, so pathologists can spend less time, hunched over a microscope doing repetitive tasks.
Right.
And more time focusing on the really complex cases.
Precisely. And potentially making diagnoses faster and more accurate.
Makes sense. So how are these solutions actually structured?
So they have these things called Aiforia clinical suites.
Okay.
And these are like collections of AI models, each optimized for a specific diagnostic need.
So different tools for different types of cancer or what?
Exactly. And each suite comes with a user-friendly interface tailored for that specific use.
Okay, that makes sense. So before we get into specifics, though,
Yeah.
we should probably mention the whole regulatory aspect.
Oh, yes. Very important. Not all of these tools are available everywhere.
Right, so how does that work?
So only certain Aiforia AI models and their clinical suite viewer have what's called CE-IVD marking.
CE-IVD.
Yeah, it's a European standard.
Right.
So it means they're approved for diagnostic use in the EU and EEA countries.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Everywhere else, they're currently for research use only.
Got it. So let's dive into some specific applications, starting with the breast cancer suite.
All right, the breast cancer suite, this one's packed with features.
Yeah, it looks like it covers a lot.
It does. So you've got models for grading,
Okay.
ER, PRPR, TKR2, Chi67,
Wow, that's a mouthful.
and even lymph node metastasis detection.
Okay, so break that down for me. What do each of these actually do?
Sure. So the grading model helps pathologists assess how aggressive the cancer cells look under a microscope.
So how advanced the cancer is.
Exactly. And it analyzes H&E stained tissue biopsies, identifies the invasive carcinoma, and scores the different components.
Okay.
But important note, this particular grading model is for research use. Only everywhere.
Global.
Yeah, globally.
All right, what about the ER, PR, HER2, and Chi67 models? What are those all about?
So these are all about crucial biomarkers in breast cancer.
Okay.
The ER and PR models detect invasive carcinoma and then score the percentage of tumor cells that are positive or negative for estrogen and progesterone receptors.
Okay.
That helps guide hormone therapy decisions.
I see. And what about HER2?
HER2 does the same thing. detect invasive carcinoma, but it scores the level of ATR2 protein on the tumor cells.
Which is important for targeted therapies, right?
Absolutely, and it's designed to align with the guidelines from the College of American Pathologists.
Okay, and Ki-67.
Ki-67 is all about how fast the cancer cells are growing.
So it's like how aggressive it is?
Yeah, it detects invasive carcinoma and scores the percentage of Ki-67 positive cells.
Okay, so are these models approved for diagnostic use?
These four ER, PR, ATR2, and Ki-67, they all have the CE-IVD marking.
Okay.
So they're good to go in the EU and EA.
I see.
But elsewhere, it's research use, only for now.
Makes sense. And what kind of results have they seen with these models in clinical settings?
Well, for the ER model, they found really strong agreement with the traditional visual diagnosis.
Okay, so the AI is accurate.
Yes. And they also saw significant time savings, like up to 47% faster.
Wow, that's a huge difference.
Right. Imagine almost half of the pathologist's time freed up.
Yeah, that's significant. So more time for other things.
Exactly. And the HER2 and Ki-67 models also showed excellent correlation with traditional methods.
Good.
And importantly, they also saw improvements in diagnostic concordance.
What does that mean?
So basically it means there was less disagreement between different pathologists.
Oh, so more consistency in diagnoses.
Exactly, which
Yeah.
is really important for, things like multi-center studies or when patients seek second opinions.
Right, makes sense. And what about Ki-67? Did they find similar time savings with that one?
Yep, up to 54% faster for scoring entire slides.
Nice. And PR. Any notable findings there?
Yeah, the PR model also showed very strong correlation with the visual assessment.
Okay, so all in all, it seems like these models are pretty accurate
Yeah, and efficient.
and lead to more consistent diagnoses, which is obviously very important.
Absolutely.
Okay, so moving on then, what about the lymph node metastasis model that's also part of the breast cancer suite?
Right, so this one's really interesting. It can actually detect and quantify the spread of cancer cells to the lymph nodes.
From breast cancer?
Yeah, from breast cancer, but also melanoma and colorectal cancer.
Oh, wow. So it has multiple applications.
Yeah, it analyzes whole slide images of lymph node tissue.
Okay, and is this one approved for diagnostic use?
Unfortunately, no. This one's currently for research use only in all markets.
Okay, so a powerful tool, but still in the research phase.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to another big one, lung cancer.
All right, lung cancer.
They have a specific suite for PD-L1, right?
Yes, the lung cancer PD-L1 model, this one's really important for immunotherapy.
Why is that?
So this model helps pathologists detect invasive carcinoma in non-small cell lung cancer samples. And then it scores the tumor cells as either PD-L1 negative or positive.
And that determines whether a patient would benefit from certain immunotherapies.
Exactly. It's crucial information for treatment decisions.
And what about the performance of this model? How does it stack up against traditional methods?
Again, excellent agreement with visual diagnoses, improved concordance among pathologists, and significant time savings.
Time savings being...
Up to 46% faster.
Wow, so pretty consistent with what we've seen with the other models.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of regulatory approval, it has the CE-IVD marking for use in the EU and EEA,
Okay,
but it's research use only everywhere else.
got it. So let's move on to prostate cancer now.
All right, prostate cancer, another big one.
And they have a whole suite of models for this one as well, right?
Yes, the prostate cancer suite includes models for Gleason grade groups, PNI G4 cribriform, and HGPI.
PNI, HGPN, a lot of acronyms.
I know lots of acronyms.
So remind me again, what are each of these models looking for?
Okay, so the Gleason grade groups model helps identify adenocarcinoma, the most common type of prostate cancer.
Okay.
And then it assigns a Gleason grade group, which helps determine the prognosis.
Got it. And what about PNI?
PNI, that stands for perineural invasion.
Right.
So this model detects if the cancer cells have invaded the nerves around the prostate.
Which is a bad sign, right?
Yeah, it's a sign that the cancer might be more aggressive.
Okay, what about G4 cribriform?
G4 cribriform. This one identifies a specific pattern of Gleason grade 4 cancer cells.
Okay.
The cribriform pattern, which is also associated with a higher risk of the cancer spreading.
I see. And finally, HGPI.
HGPI stands for high-grade prostatic intraepithelial neoplasia,
Right.
and it's basically a precursor lesion to prostate cancer.
Okay, so this model helps identify potential problems early on.
Exactly.
And what about the data for these models and their regulatory status?
So the Gleason grade groups, PNI and G4 cribriform models, they have all shown excellent correlation with visual diagnoses.
Okay, so good accuracy.
Yeah, and they've also demonstrated some pretty impressive time savings.
Like,
Up to 36% faster for Gleason grade groups.
wow.
29% faster for P&I detection and a whopping 54% faster for G4 cribriform.
Okay, so really speeding things up.
Definitely. And those three models, the Gleason grade groups P&I and G4 cribriform, they've all received the CE-IVD marking.
So they can be used clinically in the EU and EEA.
Yes, but HGP-ON is still for research use, only everywhere.
Okay, so still some work to be done there.
Yeah.
All right, so we've covered breast cancer, lung cancer, and prostate cancer.
Yep.
What's next?
The colon suite.
Okay, colon suite. What's special about this one?
Well, this suite includes a model that focuses on prognosis.
Oh, interesting. So not just diagnosis, but also predicting how the disease might progress.
Exactly.
So what's this model called?
It's called Aiforia colorectal cancer, QuantCRC.
QuantCRC. Okay, and what does it do?
So it analyzes histological features in colorectal cancer samples,
Okay.
and then it gives an estimate of the patient's risk of cancer recurrence.
Oh, wow. So that can really help guide treatment decisions.
Absolutely, especially after surgery.
And is this based on solid research?
Oh yeah, this one was developed and validated with the Mayo Clinic.
Wow, the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, and it's been verified at multiple other hospitals.
That's impressive.
And interestingly, it's actually shown to be better at predicting risk than the standard ASCO staging system.
So it's potentially a more accurate tool.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But for now, it's still for research use only.
Got it. So not ready for prime time just yet.
Not quite.
Okay. And is there another model in the colon suite as well?
Yes, there's also the lymph node metastasis model.
Oh, right. The one we talked about earlier.
Exactly. This one's shared with the breast cancer suite
Right. So it can detect the spread of cancer cells to the lymph nodes.
from various cancers.
Yeah, breast melanoma and colorectal.
And it's also for research use only currently.
Got it.
And then last but not least, we have the gastric suite.
Okay, the gastric suite, what's in that one?
This one features the Aiforia gastric cancer model.
Okay, and what does that one do?
This model can detect the presence of gastric cancer itself. And it can also identify Helicobacter pylori,
Which is?
a bacterium that's linked to gastric cancer.
Oh, right. I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's a pretty nasty bug.
So this model can find both the cancer and the bacteria that can cause it.
Exactly, all from standard H&E stained tissue samples.
Wow, that's impressive. And is this one approved for diagnostic use?
Not yet. This one is also for research use, only currently.
Okay, so it seems like there's a lot of promising work being done in the gastric cancer space.
Definitely.
So overall, then, looking at all these clinical suites for different types of cancer,
Yeah.
it seems like AI is really making its mark in cancer diagnosis and prognosis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's helping to increase efficiency, precision, and consistency in diagnosis.
And potentially leading to faster and more accurate treatment decisions.
Exactly. And as Aiforia emphasizes, those are really the key goals.
Right. And while the regulatory landscape is still evolving, it's clear that AI is becoming a vital tool for pathologists. So now that we've covered the clinical side of things, let's switch gears and talk about their research solutions.
Okay, yeah, let's dive into that.
So these research solutions are really about empowering researchers.
Yeah. Researchers in pharma, biotech, CROs, academic institutions, all sorts of places.
And the main goal is to accelerate preclinical research using AI.
Exactly.
So how do they do that?
Well, these solutions are designed to be very flexible and adaptable.
Meaning?
They can be used in a wide range of research areas.
Okay.
And importantly, they're also suitable for GLP environments.
GLP being?
Good laboratory practice. Those are the guidelines that ensure the integrity of preclinical studies.
Oh, right, of course.
And it's similar to the clinical applications. A big advantage here is automation.
Okay, so freeing up time for researchers.
Exactly. So less time spent on tedious manual image analysis and more time for actual research.
That makes sense, and we have some examples here of how these solutions can be applied.
Yeah, lots of examples.
So let's go through some of those. What kind of things can these tools do?
Well, for pathology labs, they can help with things like image quality control.
So making sure the scanned images are good quality.
Exactly. And also basic tumor detection.
Okay, so streamlining some of the initial steps.
Yeah, and then in broader research and discovery, the applications get even more interesting.
Like what?
Well, you can do detailed tissue and tumor detection,
Okay.
complex immunofluorescence analysis,
Which helps to identify different types of cells.
right, like immune cells, tumor cells, all sorts of things.
Got it.
And then you can even create very specific applications for analyzing certain types of lesions.
In different organs.
Exactly, like brain, liver, kidney, you name it.
Wow, so very specialized tools.
Very specialized. And then in toxicopathology,
It is.
the study of the safety of drugs and chemicals,
Right.
AI can help analyze things like ovarian follicles,
Okay.
bone marrow cells,
I see.
and also identify and characterize lesions in various organs.
Which is important for evaluating drug toxicity.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
lots of different applications across the board.
Yeah, it seems like these tools can be used for a wide range of research questions.
Definitely.
And Aiforia also offers specific software modules for research, right?
Yes. They have Aiforia Studies and Aiforia Create.
Okay, tell me about this.
So Aiforia Studies is designed for image analysis studies that need to comply with GLP guidelines.
Okay, so very specific.
Yeah, it lets researchers perform and evaluate analysis in non-clinical histology studies.
Okay.
And they can export and store all the study data in a way that's immutable and traceable.
So very secure and reliable.
Exactly.
And what about Aiforia Create? What's that all about?
So Aiforia Create is really cool. It's a platform for developing, customizing, and validating deep learning AI models.
So researchers can create their own AI tools.
Exactly. They can train models to identify specific features and patterns in images.
This is all cloud-based.
Yes, cloud-based, so it's very collaborative.
Researchers can work together from anywhere.
Exactly. And they emphasize that the interface is very intuitive.
Okay, so you don't need to be a coding expert to use it.
No, not at all. And they also provide comprehensive metrics for evaluating the models.
So you can see how well your AI is actually performing.
Exactly.
It's very cool.
Well,
So it's making AI development much more accessible.
And so, yeah, democratizing AI in a way.
And we have some great examples here of how these research solutions are being used in the real world.
Yes, some really compelling case studies.
Let's go through a few of those.
All right, so for example, at MIT, the Tyler Jacks lab used Aiforia's technology to automate tumor grading in their lung cancer research.
Okay, so speeding up a critical part of their research.
Yeah, and then at Massachusetts General Hospital, they used AI to analyze markers in neurodegenerative disease research.
Interesting. And what about applications in the pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah, there are a few good examples there, too.
Okay, tell me about those.
So Ferrin Pharmaceuticals developed an AI model to quantify and locate a protein called Clever-1.
Clever-1.
Yeah, it's involved in the tumor microenvironment.
Okay.
And this kind of spatial analysis is really important for developing new cancer drugs.
I see. And what about Sanofi?
So Sanofi used Aiforia Create to automate the counting of T-plus neurons.
T-plus neurons.
Yep, in their Parkinson's disease research.
Okay, so a very specific application.
Very specific.
And are there any other examples?
Oh yeah, there's Orion Pharma. They used AI to speed up their preclinical neurotoxicity analysis.
So making sure new drugs are safe for the nervous system.
Exactly, very important.
And then there's CRL Charles River Laboratories.
Yes, CRO, they used AI to screen for changes in bone marrow cellularity.
Which is a key part of toxicology studies.
Right. And finally, there's Experimentica, a CRO that used AI to analyze scans of ocular diseases.
So looking at eye diseases.
Yep, specifically to identify and measure neovascular lesions.
Okay, so very diverse applications across different areas of research.
Very diverse. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, so it's clear that AI is becoming a really important tool in both basic research and drug development.
For sure, it's transforming how research is done.
Now let's talk about what makes Aiforia stand out in this crowded field.
Okay, yeah, what are their key differentiators?
Well, they talk a lot about being future-proof.
Future-proof.
Yeah, so basically they're committed to continually developing new AI model.
Makes sense. The field's evolving so rapidly.
Right, they're always working to stay ahead of the curve.
So they're not just resting on their laurels.
Exactly, they're constantly innovating.
Good to hear.
And they also really emphasize transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah, which is super important when you're dealing with AI in healthcare.
Absolutely. People need to understand how these algorithms are working.
Right, and Aiforia is all about making their AI understandable.
So how do they do that?
Well, they say that pathologists and scientists always retain control over the analysis process.
Okay, so they're not just handing everything over to the machines.
No, they're not. They say that users can see how the AI is making its decisions.
Oh, interesting.
And they can even be involved in training the models.
So it's a collaborative process.
Exactly. They also provide quantifiable data that can be reviewed and adjusted.
So full transparency.
Yeah, and they're really positioning their AI as a helpful first read, but the final decision always rests with the expert.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another key point they make is ease of use.
Ease of use, very important if you want people to actually adopt these technologies.
Right, so how do they make their software easy to use?
Well, they say you don't need to know anything about data science or coding to use it.
That's great, so anyone can pick it up.
Yeah, and they offer support for integrating the software into existing IT systems.
So no need to overhaul your whole infrastructure.
Right, and they also work to tailor the models to the specific needs of individual labs.
Oh, wow. So really customized solutions.
Customized, and they also continuously monitor the AI's performance to make sure it's working optimally.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they offer scalable pricing models.
So it can work for both small labs and large institutions.
Exactly.
Very cool. And then the last big thing they emphasize is security.
Ah, yes, security, absolutely crucial when you're dealing with sensitive medical data.
Right. So what do they do to ensure data security?
Well, they have a bunch of certifications.
Like what?
ISO 27001, SOC2, Type 2, ISO 13485, all the big ones.
Okay, so they're taking it seriously.
They also adhere to all the relevant regulations like IVDR, GDPR, and HIPAA.
So they're covering all the bases.
Yeah, and they even offer private cloud deployments.
Which means?
Customers can have even more control over where their data is stored and how it's managed.
Okay, so security is clearly a top priority for them.
It seems that way.
So to recap, it sounds like Aiforia is really trying to make AI accessible and trustworthy.
Yeah, they're focusing on innovation, transparency, ease of use, and security.
Exactly. All the things that are important for building confidence in these new technologies.
Definitely. And I think they seem to be gaining a lot of traction in the field.
Yeah, I've been seeing more and more about them lately.
Me too. And they also have a ton of resources available for people who want to learn more.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay, so they have this whole section on their website called Insights and Resources.
Yeah.
And it's full of guides, webinars, blog posts, all sorts of things.
So like a knowledge base.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something for everyone from beginners to more advanced users.
So give me some examples. What kind of stuff can I find there?
Well, there's a guide on the basics of digital pathology and AI.
Okay, good starting point.
Yeah, and then there are webinars on specific clinical applications.
Like what?
Like using AI in interstitial lung disease.
Okay.
Or evaluating liver transplants.
Interesting.
And even developing AI for renal pathology.
So very specialized topics.
Yeah. And then there are blog posts about real-world implementations of digital pathology.
Right, cool. So you can see how it's actually being used.
Exactly. Like there's one about how they're deploying digital pathology in a region of Italy.
Okay.
And another one about how the Mayo Clinic chose their AI vendor.
Oh, that's interesting. I'd like to read that one.
Yeah, me too. And for the more technically minded folks.
Yeah.
There's a white paper on foundation models in Aiforia Create.
Okay, so getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah. And they even have a white paper and a case study on creating a veterinary pathology AI model.
For animals?
Yeah, specifically for segmenting the retina in animal eye images.
Wow, so showing how versatile their platform is.
Exactly. And then there's a blog post about the benefits of AI in drug discovery.
Okay.
A piece about AI as a collaborative partner for pathologists.
Interesting.
And even a resource that explains deep learning in the context of digital pathology.
Wow, so they really cover a lot of ground.
They do. And then to top it all off, they have some really cool case studies from the Mayo Clinic.
Okay, like what?
Well, one is about how AI is being used to improve the quantification of fat in liver pathology.
Okay.
And the other one is about using AI to differentiate between different subtypes of interstitial lung disease.
So really cutting-edge stuff.
Absolutely. It's very impressive.
So yeah, anyone who wants to learn more about AI and pathology should definitely check out their website.
Agreed. Tons of great resources there.
So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that AI has huge potential to transform pathology.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Both in clinical diagnostics and preclinical research.
Right. And Aiforia is really at the forefront of this transformation.
Their solutions are really impressive, and the results they're getting are very encouraging.
Yeah, and it's not just about making things faster. It's about improving accuracy, consistency, and ultimately patient care.
Right. And I think that's what's so exciting about this whole field.
It is. It really makes you think about the future. Like, how will AI change the roles of pathologists and scientists in the years to come?
That's a big question.
It is, and it's something we'll all have to grapple with as these technologies continue to evolve.
For sure. It's a fascinating time to be in this field.
Yeah, it is. And for anyone listening who's interested in learning more, I highly recommend checking out the resources we mentioned.
Yeah, definitely a great place to start.
All right, well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Aiforia.
It's been great talking about this with you.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating discussion.
Until next time.
See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.